First of all, to be honest with you, it's a pleasure for me to have the opportunity to host you on Straight Talk Africa for the first time.
Well, Shaka, it's a pleasure to be here, and Merry Christmas to you, your family, and all of your visitors.
Merry Christmas to you, of course, and let me ask you a question. Do you sometimes watch Straight Talk Africa out of Harare?
Of course.
Really?
We do. First of all, I have been, for my entire career, a big supporter of Voice of America. And Voice of America has done well every place I have served. So and particularly in countries where freedom of speech have been challenged. So yes.
Profoundly honored, of course, for your support and the compliments. Now let me ask you a question immediately, really.
Yes.
When President Mugabe voluntarily stepped down, you were in Harare.
Yes.
What was your immediate reaction?
I was in a meeting and we got a text, got in my car and drove home. And I said to myself, well, Zimbabweans aren't so excited. But when I got out of my car, I realized it's soundproof as well as bulletproof. And it was the loudest noise I've ever heard in Harare. I went in to tell my wife, who gave me a hug, ran into the kitchen to tell our staff, and they went crazy. And we were having a dinner party that night. Everybody was so happy.
You know, a lot of people have said, look, this was a coup. And others say, no, it was not a coup. What was it in your view?
It was a Zimbabwean-style change of government. Because only in Zimbabwe would President Mugabe have been allowed to go to Africa Open University, Zimbabwe Open University, and cap its graduates, give a speech on television, which we still do not know what his intent was. But the most important thing is going forward. And we want to see this new Zimbabwe thrive. We want to be partners in the new Zimbabwe. And we hope that the new government will help its people, and we'll try to help the new government as well as the people if it adheres to the Constitution.
What does Washington expect from Harare?
Sir, right now, we want to hold President Mnangagwa at his word. He has told the Zimbabwean people, most of all, as well as the American people, he's going to hold free and fair elections. They're going to be violence-free. We would like to see international election observers, led by Africans, but we'd like to be part of it. We'd like to see the biometric voter registration period extended. We think that's going to happen, and we hope that he funds that. On the second part, we like to see President Mnangagwa implement the budget speech that Finance Minister Chinamasa gave last week in terms of Zimbabwe's open for business.
Let's talk about the elections. Is it possible, frankly, for the Mnangagwa administration to conduct a credible election without reforms?
We will find out. We will find out. They say they're going to. Now look, we have to say over 1 million people have registered in the last couple of months to bring it up to 4.6 million. That tells us people want to vote, as they have in 2013, 2008. What troubles us is when Paramount Chief said that the chiefs are going to support the government. That smacks of really interference. We'd like not to see that. We're very concerned, what role is the military going to play? We'd like to see that explained to us, but more importantly, the Zimbabwean people. We want to salute Zimbabwe on hosting free and fair elections.
You've been in Zimbabwe for slightly over 2 years now.
Yes.
What kind of place is it?
No, this is my second time. So I've spent 5 years of my life in Zimbabwe.
Really?
I'll tell you this, my wife loves Zimbabwe and Zimbabweans.
Do you speak some Shona or Ndebele or something?
Very few words, very few words. My wife actually has given speeches in Shona and Ndebele.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
much more than me. But when I think of Zimbabwe, I think of people who always have a plan, always have a backup plan, who never stop getting degrees, who are very religious, very conservative, but also interested in having businesses. We love the music of Zimbabwe. My wife is always following Tuku, but I love Ja Praise's music. And we hope that the great Thomas Mfumo comes home and performs. We'd love to see that. That would really signal a change.
Very interesting. I gather that you recently had, or at least you paid a courtesy call on the new Zimbabwean foreign minister.
Yes.
That is Lieutenant General Moyo, retired but certainly not tired. What was it like?
After we took photos, people said, "You two look alike." And I was like, "No, I look better." Let's be clear. The foreign minister was engaging. He told us that his government's going to reach out to capitals, to former friends, new friends, erstwhile friends, governments that have sanctions against them. We take him at his word. He said that the elections will be free and fair. He said that he corrected me, that he's not only foreign minister, that he's foreign and international trade minister. So he will have a huge responsibility in bringing American investors. And I told him that despite sanctions, Pepsi-Cola opened in Zimbabwe this year, that Pizza Hut's going to open after Christmas. These are American businesses who are already coming. More will come if the right policies happen.
What did he say that Harare expects from Washington, at least, in the shortest possible time?
Well, clearly, let's be frank, they would like to see sanctions removed. Then they would like to see us encourage American investors. We pointed out we are already encouraging American investors. It's their decision whether they come or not. And we hope that President Mnangagwa will meet many American investors when he goes to the World Economic Forum in Davos. And that was the heart of our exchange. But he's very friendly, very, very open. But he's a general, and I work for a general in Colin Powell. And generals are generals, they're very firm.
They are officers, it's like an officer and a gentleman.
Yes, exactly.
Very interesting. And of course, in addition to that, he happens to have an earned PhD in international affairs. Very interesting. What about President Emmerson Mnangagwa? Have you met him?
I only had the privilege of meeting him once when I first got to Zimbabwe, when he was Vice President, Minister of Justice. I have not had the pleasure of meeting him since, and that's almost 2 years. I hope to have the opportunity to meet him when I return.
From the little that you know about him, is he the sort of person that you look forward to doing business with?
Yes, well, even before he became president, a huge swath of the business community was hoping that he would become president because they viewed him as pragmatic. His friends that I have met tells me that he doesn't talk much, that he listens and he thinks before he responds. I think that'll be wonderful.
If he was watching this program, what would you say to him if you looked in the camera that he needs to do immediately so that, for example, you could in fact remove the sanctions?
Well, we would say to President Mnangagwa, congratulations on being president, that our message is just two things. Do what you have said you have done, will do, and your promises to the Zimbabwean people. And that is hold free and fair elections and open the economy.
There were some people who said that when it comes to the U.S. dealing with Zimbabwe, in their words, not mine, that it seems to apply some kind of double standard, really. Talking about selective justice, because Zimbabwe happens not to be the only country in Africa that, according to the US, is undemocratic. You deal with a lot of undemocratic countries. In fact, one time I remember The Economist, which I'm sure you know is one of the most influential news magazines out of London, once compared democracy, or at least the democratic space in Zimbabwe, with that of the Republic of Rwanda, and they found that Harare was much better than Rwanda, and yet you engage Kigali.
Well, I think what we want to do is we look at every country individually. We have bilateral relations with every country. And what is important is where do we go from here? We will leave it to the historians to judge our relationship with Zimbabwe in the past. What I'm excited about is helping Zimbabwe go forward, continuing to provide scholarships. We provide many scholarships for graduate school and fellowships We have over 1,500 Zimbabweans studying in America, including at UCLA. And
very good.
we also try to help Zimbabwe through our trade policy. Zimbabwe has a trade surplus with the United States. We'd like to have a trade surplus for Zimbabwe, but we want that trade to increase. And this is what we're going to focus on. Let's go forward. Let's try to find a way to partnership. Let's help Zimbabwe provide jobs for its people.
Talk to us about the fellowship that you sort of mentioned to me, and which of course is with the State University of New York Buffalo campus.
That is something that's done by Zimbabweans. So it's not just American government giving scholarships, but there's a Zimbabwean American professor at SUNY Buffalo. He's a scientist. He really believes in STEM. He approached the former Minister of Higher Education, and they funded 10 Zimbabweans, which they chose on merit, to study at SUNY Buffalo along with UZ, hoping to produce 10 PhDs in 10 years. It's an ambitious effort. SUNY, my home is New York City.
Yes, of course.
Many of my friends went to Buffalo and Albany.
You grew up in Harlem?
I was born in Harlem. We moved to Queens. I went to high school in Brooklyn, so I'm all parts.
Yes.
I still have relatives in Harlem.
Very interesting.
Which I dearly love Harlem. But this is not just, these programs are not just government, it is individual Zimbabwean Americans such as this person doing this.
Final question, Mr. Ambassador. What would you say is the single most important decision that you have made since your assignment in Harare? And what about the single most regrettable decision?
Well, the single most important decision we made was what we term the military intervention. Not calling and using the C word was the international community's gift to the new government, and we hope they remember that. Regrettable decisions, I have many throughout my career.
Just one, no catalog, Mr. Ambassador.
I'm trying to think. It's hard if you have a big ego. What did you make as a mistake in Zimbabwe? That's really hard for me to think because I haven't been given much of a chance to engage the government. I think their mistake was not engaging us fully, and we hope we can go forward, but nobody is perfect. The biggest challenge I've had was that when people send remittances and they're captured by Treasury or banks, getting those remittances, which are not part of sanctions, to the individual. And when we can't, or it takes a long time, we deeply regret that. And that is something that we continue to meet with our government to try to change.
Unfortunately, time happens not to be our best ally. And on that note, Mr. Ambassador, it was a pleasure to host you on Straight Talk Africa for the first time.
Doctor, pleasure to meet you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too, sir.